Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What Happened. Today we're diving into one of the most insane corporate scandals of 2025, and honestly, when I first heard about this story, I couldn't believe it was real. We're talking about how a 15-second moment at a Coldplay concert managed to destroy two careers, collapse a billion-dollar company's reputation, and become one of the most viral scandals of the entire year. This isn't just another celebrity gossip story. This is about how modern technology, social media, and our hunger for drama can turn literally anyone into a global spectacle overnight. And the crazy part? The two people at the center of this chaos probably thought they were completely anonymous when it all went down. So, grab some popcorn because we're about to explore how a simple kiss cam moment turned into what the internet dubbed ColdplayGate, and why this story perfectly captures everything that's terrifying about living in the digital age. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never feel safe at a concert again. Let me paint the scene for you. It's July 16th, 2025, and Coldplay is performing at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. The energy is electric, Chris Martin is doing his thing on stage, and thousands of fans are having the time of their lives. Just another night of great music and good vibes, right? Wrong. Because somewhere in the VIP section, two people were about to have their lives completely destroyed by what they thought would be a harmless night out. And the craziest part? They had no idea it was coming. Enter Andy Byron, the 40-something CEO of Astronomer, a hot tech startup specializing in data orchestration that was valued at over $1 billion. This guy had built his entire career in tech, working his way up through various companies before landing the top job at one of the most promising startups in the industry. By all accounts, he was living the American dream. Successful company, beautiful family, and enough money to enjoy VIP seats at Coldplay concerts. Then there's Kristin Cabot, the company's chief people officer, basically the head of HR. She had joined Astronomer just 8 months earlier in November 2024, and Andy Byron himself had publicly praised her hiring, calling her a proven leader and saying her passion for fostering diverse, collaborative workplaces makes her a perfect fit for Astronomer. The professional relationship seemed solid, legitimate, and completely above board. Both were married to other people. Both had families. Both had reputations to protect. And both were about to learn that in the age of smartphones and social media, privacy doesn't exist, especially when you're in positions of corporate leadership. So there they are at the concert, sitting in the back of the stadium in what Kristin later described as pitch black, feeling totally anonymous. She had been drinking high noon seltzers, they were dancing to the music, and according to her own account, she grabbed Andy while they were dancing together. Just two colleagues blowing off steam at a concert, or so they thought. Then came the moment that changed everything. Gillette Stadium's Kiss Cam. You know, that traditional stadium feature where they put couples on the big screen and encourage them to kiss for the crowd's entertainment, landed on Andy and Kristin. And what happened next was pure comedy gold for the internet, but an absolute nightmare for everyone involved. Instead of playing along or just laughing it off like most people would, Andy and Kristin completely panicked. Andy ducked out of the frame, Kristin turned her back to the camera, and they both tried to hide from the Jumbotron like they were fugitives on the run. Their reaction was so suspicious, so obviously guilty, that it immediately caught the attention of everyone in the stadium. But here's where it gets even better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Chris Martin, Coldplay's lead singer, noticed the awkward reaction and decided to comment on it from the stage. "Oh, look at these two," he said to the crowd of thousands. "Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy." Those words, "either they're having an affair," were about to become the most expensive sentence Andy Byron and Kristin Cabot would ever hear. Because in that moment, Chris Martin had just given the internet exactly what it needed: a narrative, a scandal, and a mystery to solve. Grace Springer, a concert goer who had been filming the Jumbotron just in case she and her friends appeared on screen, captured the entire interaction. Within hours, her TikTok video had exploded across social media platforms. We're talking millions of views, thousands of shares, and an army of internet detectives ready to figure out who these mysterious, suspicious acting people were. And here's the thing about the internet. Once it gets its teeth into a mystery, it doesn't let go. Within hours, social media users had identified Andy Byron as the CEO of Astronomer and Kristin Cabot as the company's head of HR. Their LinkedIn profiles were being screenshot and shared. Their company bios were being dissected, their personal lives were being invaded by complete strangers who felt entitled to know everything about them. The optics couldn't have been worse. Here's a married male CEO and a married female HR executive caught in what appeared to be a romantic embrace at a concert, panicking when they realized they were being filmed, with Chris Martin literally suggesting they were having an affair. It was like a corporate scandal checklist had been perfectly executed in 15 seconds of video. Andy and Kristin immediately knew they were screwed. According to Kristin's later account, they retreated to the bar and just sat there with our heads in our hands, like, what just happened? They spent the rest of the night strategizing what to say to the company's board of directors, knowing that this video was about to make their professional lives extremely complicated. But even they couldn't have predicted just how quickly everything would fall apart. By the next morning, the video had reached viral status. The ColdplayGate was trending on multiple platforms. News outlets were picking up the story. And Astronomer, a company that had built its reputation on data privacy and corporate responsibility, was suddenly dealing with a PR nightmare centered around its top 2 executives. The board of directors moved fast. On July 19th, just 3 days after the concert, Andy Byron resigned as CEO. The company announced that he was being placed on leave pending an investigation, but everyone knew what that meant. In the corporate world, pending investigation is usually just a polite way of saying, we're figuring out how to fire you without getting sued. Kristin Cabot followed on July 24th, stepping down from her role as Chief People Officer. The irony was almost too perfect. The head of HR, the person responsible for preventing exactly this kind of workplace scandal, had become the center of the biggest workplace scandal the company had ever faced. But the resignations didn't stop the story. If anything, they made it worse. Now, it wasn't just a funny viral video. It was confirmation that something inappropriate had actually happened. The internet loves being right, and Andy and Kristin's quick exits seemed to validate every conspiracy theory and piece of speculation that had been circulating online. The human cost was devastating. Kristin later revealed that she received between 50 and 60 death threats. Her children were affected by the public scrutiny. Her marriage fell apart. She filed for divorce from her husband Andrew in August, though he later confirmed they had been separated before the concert. Andy's wife removed his surname from her social media profiles and temporarily moved to their Maine vacation home to escape the attention. Meanwhile, Astronomer was in full crisis mode. The company, which had been valued at over $1 billion and was considered one of the hottest startups in the data orchestration space, suddenly found itself dealing with a reputation crisis that had nothing to do with their actual business performance. Their response was interesting. Instead of the typical corporate damage control playbook, they decided to lean into the chaos. In late July, Astronomer released a tongue-in-cheek video featuring none other than Gwyneth Paltrow as their temporary spokesperson. The choice was particularly cheeky because Gwyneth is Chris Martin's ex-wife, creating this weird meta-commentary on the whole situation. In the video, Gwyneth delivers deadpan corporate speak about Astronomer's data orchestration capabilities, while the subtext clearly acknowledges the elephant in the room. It was either brilliant crisis management or a complete misreading of the situation, probably depending on your sense of humor and tolerance for corporate controversy. But the Gwyneth Paltrow video didn't sit well with everyone involved. Kristin Cabot later revealed that she threw out all her Goop products in protest of Gwyneth's decision to make light of her situation. From Kristin's perspective, this wasn't a fun marketing opportunity. It was the destruction of her career and family life being turned into content for corporate social media. The long-term consequences were severe. Andy Byron, despite being the CEO of a billion-dollar company just months earlier, quietly disappeared from public life. His LinkedIn went dark, his corporate speaking engagements ended, and he effectively vanished from the tech industry that had been his entire career. Kristin faced an even harder road. As she put it in later interviews, she became the most maligned HR manager in HR history. The woman who was supposed to prevent workplace scandals had become the biggest workplace scandal of the year. She told reporters that potential employers had told her she was unemployable and that she had become a meme that followed her everywhere. The financial implications were also significant. Andy and his wife Megan sold their $5.8 million New York City apartment in the aftermath of the scandal. The couple, who had built a life around Andy's successful tech career, suddenly found themselves dealing with the reality that his professional reputation might be permanently damaged. Astronomer appointed interim leadership and tried to move forward, but the company's brand had been fundamentally altered. They weren't just a data orchestration company anymore, they were that company from the Coldplay kiss cam scandal. In the attention economy, that kind of association can be incredibly valuable or incredibly damaging, depending on your industry and target market. The story also highlighted the weird power dynamics of modern viral culture. Grace Springer, the woman who filmed the original video, became a minor celebrity herself. She defended her decision to post the video, arguing that she was just sharing a funny moment from a concert. But her 15 seconds of filming had effectively ended two people's careers and disrupted multiple families. This raised uncomfortable questions about consent and privacy in public spaces. Andy and Kristin were at a public event, sitting in seats they had paid for. But did that give strangers the right to film them and broadcast their personal moments to millions of people? In the age of smartphones, everyone is both a potential star and a potential victim, often simultaneously. The gender dynamics of the scandal were also fascinating and depressing. While both Andy and Kristin faced consequences, the public reaction to each of them was notably different. Andy largely disappeared from public view and was mostly left alone once he resigned. Kristin, on the other hand, faced sustained harassment, death threats, and what she described as being torn apart by other women online. She later commented on this disparity, saying, "What I've seen these last months makes it harder for me to believe that it's all about the men holding us back. I think women are holding ourselves back tremendously by cutting each other down." Whether you agree with that analysis or not, it's clear that the gendered nature of the public response added another layer of complexity to an already complicated situation. By December 2025, when Kristin finally broke her silence in interviews with major publications, the full scope of the damage was clear. She admitted to making a bad decision and having a couple of high noons before dancing inappropriately with her boss. She took accountability for her actions, but also revealed the devastating personal cost of becoming internet famous for all the wrong reasons. Her description of the aftermath was heartbreaking. Months of job searching with no success, watching her children deal with the public scrutiny, and trying to rebuild a life that had been completely upended by 15 seconds of viral video. She went from being a successful executive at a billion-dollar company to being unemployable in her field, all because of one night at a Coldplay concert. Andy Byron has remained largely silent throughout the entire ordeal. Unlike Kristin, he hasn't given major interviews or tried to tell his side of the story. He and his wife were spotted together in late September, still wearing their wedding rings, suggesting they might be trying to work through the situation privately. But professionally, his career in tech appears to be over. The Coldplay kiss cam scandal perfectly captures several disturbing trends about modern life. First, the complete lack of privacy in public spaces, where anyone with a smartphone can turn your worst moment into global entertainment. Second, the speed with which social media can destroy reputations and careers, often before anyone has time to understand what actually happened. But perhaps most importantly, it shows how corporate leadership has become a form of celebrity, where personal behavior is subject to the same scrutiny as movie stars or politicians. Andy Byron and Kristin Cabot weren't public figures in the traditional sense, but their positions at a high-profile company made them targets for public judgment in ways that would have been unthinkable just a generation ago. The story also reveals the double-edged nature of viral culture. For Astronomer, the scandal generated more brand awareness than any traditional marketing campaign could have achieved. But it also fundamentally altered how the company was perceived, creating associations that could impact their business for years to come. What happened to the Coldplay kiss cam scandal is ultimately a story about power, privacy, and the unforgiving nature of internet culture. Two people made a mistake, or didn't make a mistake, depending on your interpretation of their already separated marital situations, and paid a price that seems wildly disproportionate to their actions. It's a reminder that in the age of social media, everyone is just one viral moment away from having their life completely changed. Whether you're a tech CEO or a regular person, the internet doesn't distinguish between those who seek attention and those who accidentally receive it. The consequences are the same: global scrutiny, permanent reputation damage, and the realization that in the digital age, there's no such thing as a private moment in a public space. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild story, guys. The Coldplay kiss cam scandal might seem like just another internet drama, but I think it says something deeper about the world we're living in. When a 15-second video can destroy careers and families, we have to ask ourselves what kind of society we've created and whether the entertainment value is worth the human cost. What do you think about this whole situation? Did Andy and Kristin deserve what happened to them? Or did the internet go too far? Should companies be able to fire executives for their personal behavior, even if it doesn't directly affect their job performance? And most importantly, how do we balance our love of viral content with basic human decency? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and remember to hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more deep dives into the stories that somehow managed to break the internet. I'll catch you in the next episode, and maybe think twice before you go to your next concert. You never know when you might become the next viral sensation for all the wrong reasons.